Hey, everybody. Welcome to another session of Awaken Your Work Life. For those of you who are in the world in a job that feels heavy, daunting, not enjoyable, it doesn't make you giggle. This is why you need to be here, because Karen and I are going to help you shift that, because when you spend that many hours in doing something, it needs to be something that feeds your heart and your soul and your checkbook. Because so many people feel like they have to give up money to follow their heart, and that's so not true.
Not true.
Not true at all. So, we're here to really help you through this process, because it is really time, everybody, for all of us to love every aspect of our lives. And why not? Because we can, because we are the creators of our lives. Right, Karen?
Yeah. You know what? It is, it's a heavy responsibility and a deep acknowledgement to remove blame.
Totally.
From anything or anybody else out there, and to own kind of where we are and what we have the power to do.
Right.
So long as I feel powerless, I don't really have to take action.
Right. It's like that ostrich, right? You stick your head in the sand.
Like, yeah, can I,
you know what? Maybe you don't have to put your head in the sand.
Yeah, you really don't.
I know, but we feel like we need to, and we have to, but we have to understand that that's just a story. It's the story that you have created. And I know you can tell me, well, I have to pay my bills, Julia, and I have to take care of my kids, and I have to take care of my parents, and I have to da. Yes, all of those things are true. But here's what I know. When you follow your heart and soul, more money comes. And we just have to know that it's a possibility and know that we have a choice. And we always do.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because we want to say, yeah, that sounds great, but, and what if we just changed one word, the conjunction in there to and? Yeah, I got to pay my bills, got to feed my kids. I have to cover my house.
So true.
And I want to figure out a way to do work that I love. And that feeds me and keeps me prosperous. Like, what if it's that, all that stuff, and instead of a but, there was
no
an
butts, no coconuts.
Get rid of that big butt and put an and in there. It's really interesting. And I think we get so weighed down by our disillusionment, and it's hard. Like, everybody has hauled it this year. I get it. It's like, I don't think anybody's waking up feeling like, da, 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 yay, another day right now. I mean, we're all having to
definitely not
find and dig for resilience.
Yep.
Right. And grit. And for those of us who maybe have lost people, or who have people who are really sick right now, it's, again, really hard to think about that, right? Like, because your focus is on them. But the best thing you can do for them is to find a way to be at your highest level of, like, energy, your highest possibility, your highest level of clarity. If you need to advocate for them, you can't be down here hunkered down trying to advocate. You got to be up here, like, eyes open, heart open, looking for solutions. So no matter what's going on, the best answer is to open your heart, to ask for, clues to imagination or creativity, or how to solve these things.
Right.
Not to hunker down, but to, like, open up into it.
Which is really scary in times like this, right? So let's really talk about the fact that, so how do we open up when, we just experienced a financial crisis in the United States, election, whatnot, right? I'm just going to call it whatnot. I'm going to put it in that container. Then we have all the pandemic stuff, which we're still in the midst of. The average pandemic takes 18 months. Well, we're about at halftime, right? Yeah. So sometimes when it comes to our work life, it's like, I'm just trying to exist.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to still get my paycheck. Yeah. what I would love for those of you who are watching to really zone in on, this is a perfect opportunity because you're not necessarily commuting to work all the time, and you're not necessarily spending the time running your kids' hair, running them there, or whatever stage or season of life that you're in. You might be at the back end of your retirement going, you know what? I've been doing this for a long time and I don't want to do it anymore. And find a way. I had a client who just decided to, funny enough, be a dog walker. Why? Because I ran the numbers. She's in her mid 50s. She loves dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And she was done doing her job. And we ran the numbers to where she only needed to do $26,000 a year in income from something
To maintain her
now and
lifestyle.
65
Mm-hmm.
for her to be retired for the rest of her life. And she's like, that's all I need to make, because of everything she's done up to this point.
Mm-hmm.
She now has created choices for herself.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just need to know that creativity and innovation is so important right now to create the life you truly, truly desire
Mm-hmm.
and deserve, for
Mhm.
that matter.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. And I know there are people who don't like, that sounds great. I don't know how to do that.
Right.
And honestly, you just start, we've talked about this before, start with acknowledging your truth. Just make a list of the things you wish you want to change, or you wish.
So Karen, can we
different.
almost go through an example of that to show people how to do that? Because it's one thing to tell people, you know, like, well, acknowledge your truth. So maybe we can give an example to people of how would you and I acknowledge our truths, right? So if I were your client and I was sitting in front of you to help them dig more in on their work life, go after me from like a discovery perspective to try to pull some of that stuff out of me. Can you do that to me right now so we can show people like how they can start?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would start with one of my favorites, which is like, first of all, I would ask if you are willing to see your life differently.
I'm so ready to see my life differently. I want it yesterday.
Because that's really, and that's really the first, and you didn't hesitate, but I've had people hesitate.
Yeah, they kind of go, well, but, and you know, when they hesitate in my line of work, I go, no, you now just went to your head. You hesitated because you went up here and you were like, but. I'm like, what does your heart say?
Correct.
Are you willing to do it right now in your heart? And whenever they go to their heart, they're like, yeah. But it's our heads that negotiate us away.
Yep. And you can hear it. You can hear it in the person. You can, whether it's a hesitation or whether it's the way it comes out, there's a vibration and a tone to it, but you went straight to it. I am so ready.
I am so ready. Like, I'm just done with all the malarkey.
Yeah. And so I would ask you to start with things like, so one of the things I do initially to just open people up is to ask you, make me a list of what you love.
So what do I love? Let's see, list of what I love. I love having freedom to travel. So like, I am absolutely loving right now that I'm not afraid of airplanes right now. And so to me, when I don't have my kids on my parenting weekends, I'm working from Sedona, Arizona. And I love it because I love the mountains. I'm out of the big city, you know, and a lot of the restrictions that are going on.
Yep. So what else?
Freedom. What else?
Freedom to travel. What else? And just roll with your list.
I love helping people. I love when people are stuck in the middle of the forest. I can see the path right out to where it is they want to go. And I want to continue to help people doing that. Like that just, like, I literally get to tears when I watch somebody capture a dream. Because I know I helped them with that vision when they couldn't see it themselves. Like that just makes me tick like nobody's business.
Yep.
I want the flexibility because I want to be present in my kids' lives. I have 4 kids, 5, 7, 9, and 11. And I want them to have an experience of mom, not just punching the clock all the time, but they actually experienced mom. Even though I'm the working parent, right?
Yeah. What else do you love?
I'm starting to love me more. That is definitely got to be the part of the equation is, and not from a self-serving place, just from a place of making sure that like I'm doing the eating and the exercising, the meditating and stuff that all feeds my heart and soul. above and beyond other people's needs,
Mhm.
including my own children. Like they know that when it's mom's meditation time, leave
Mhm.
mom alone. And sometimes some of them come sit in my lap and meditate with me. It's funny how it's kind of shifted, but I used to always think that I had to negotiate that way. So what else? I love to be innovative and cutting edge and a pioneer in my industry.
Mhm.
I like breaking down the barriers of the old boys network of financial planning. You
Mhm.
know, I love the fact that I'm bringing heart and soul and the humanity back into finance. Like, it's like, oh
Mhm.
yeah, let's go do it.
Yeah,
You
and
know?
so if you had an opportunity, I want to share back with you what you shared, and I want you to listen. I want you to listen for the theme and for the depth of what you said. You said you love the freedom to travel.
Mm-hmm.
You loved helping people. And I added, because after you finished talking about it, helping people to find a way out,
Ah,
right? You said flexibility. You said you love me and me time. You love being innovative and pioneering. And when you feel into that, what this is doing is like it's inviting you into a creative space. It's
yeah.
inviting
And I can tell physiologically, I'm like, yeah, 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 yeah. Like, bring it on, bitches.
Yeah, and we start there because these are the things. And when I ask you to share like your love list, what I'm asking you to do is to tap into those things that actually feed you, the things that
Mm,
give you momentum and
yeah.
motivation, the things that renew you or
Mm,
revitalize you. And so, as you're thinking about what your tomorrow might look like, the invitation is to make sure that these elements
yeah.
are part of that. And the
Yeah.
rest of the work really comes down to being creative and identifying ways to put more of the things from this list into your day to day, and quite frankly, preferably into your work. Because the truth is, for those of us who have kind of more traditional jobs, we're working 12 hours a day, right? Or let's just say 8 to 12.
Commuting and drive. Yeah. Like
If
when
you
we
include the
add it all
travel
together,
time, yeah.
we're checking
And so
emails after dinner.
it is the way you spend most of your time,
Right.
right? Well, if you're going to do that,
It better be on your love list.
and
But
it
I
should
would
be,
bet most people, if they made their love list and then they made their job function list, they don't cross reference much.
yeah, for most people, I think, I mean, there are these annual job satisfaction, surveys that are done annually, like Gallup does them, and they're done by a bunch of people. But the number has typically ranged between like mid 50s, 55 to 65% are like, no, not thrilled with my job. Like it's
Yeah.
not really ideal for me. Like those
Right.
numbers suck.
Right. So whether you're in a job right now or so I'd encourage each of you to make that love list,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Ask yourself that question. And to Karen's point and how she did it to me, like I started explaining them all and saying everything. And she goes, no, no, no. Okay, just keep rolling. You don't have to
Mm-hmm.
give the story behind each one.
Mm-hmm.
Just roll with
Mm-hmm.
what they are. Because I think sometimes what we do is we add the story behind them
To
because
justify it. Yeah,
yeah,
you don't have to do that.
no más, por favor.
Yeah, no,
No more, right?
yeah, you really don't have to. And that's the point. Too much talking, to your point, you're getting into your head. You
Right,
you leave your heart and you get into your head because the heart doesn't speak in words like that.
right,
The heart speaks in pictures. Like sometimes you may have noticed that when I asked you this question, you might have started to get some visuals in
right,
your mind's eye,
right.
right? And then what you had to do was figure out how to translate what you were seeing into a word.
That's exactly it. Right.
What would I call that? And you might see yourself sitting with your family. You might have seen yourself sitting in meditation. Like, so we tend to hear or see first, and then the brain has to translate, which is why, like, keep the words at a minimum. And here's the thing, for those of you who actually stop, it doesn't have to take a lot of time. And when you feel like there's a natural ebb to your list, just stop. But no one else has to see it. The important thing
Right,
is for
exactly.
you to see it. right?
And
You need to
not,
know.
here's the other thing that I always tell people is, once you make that list, I want it up on your refrigerator. I want it as you open your computer screen in the morning. I want it, because what happens is people write it on a yellow pad of paper, and then you fold the yellow pad and then it's buried. It's like, well, do you really want to bury the life that you want to create? Yeah, no, you don't. Like, you want it front and center to keep reminding yourself that this is what I'm working towards. This is what my ideal world is. And this is where I want to bridge to and get to. And allow it to get to that space. Like, because we have to understand that we're the ones that don't allow it to happen. Because so many of us are used to the push and the competitive way, the masculine way to be in the world. We've been trained in business and in our work lives to do that. And really what's happening here is that we need to really honor the divine feminine side and balance it with this masculine in our work lives.
Yeah. And it is a way of allowing. People may have heard that term before.
Yeah.
Allowing and accepting and really not blocking. Most of us live our lives resisting and blocking the things we don't want, as opposed to inviting the things that we do. And
it's a shift.
And it's a little bit easier said than even recognized. Like, sometimes we don't even recognize the level, because the levels are so hardwired into us. We don't even recognize that it's a resistance that we are actually operating through. I don't want to get in trouble, so let me get my work done. I don't want to lose my house, so let me get up and go to this. I don't want, blah, 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 blah. So it's preventative, as opposed to really just inviting. Do you know what I'm saying? And so
I totally know what you're saying. Yeah.
Part of this is about beginning to really recognize, oh, this is really interesting. We hear people talk about, you need to understand your why. And although this exercise can sound like a why exercise, it's a more authentic why exercise, because I have begun to discover in my work with people that their whys have been incepted. What I mean by that is, it's a completely valid why. It sounds good, but it's not theirs.
Oh, it's somebody else's. It's what their parents expected them to do. It's what their employer expects them to do. It's how their spouse expects them to show up in the world.
Correct.
And it's not, gosh, you're saying that, and I'm sitting here going, gosh, that was actually the hardest thing after I got divorced, was realizing, like, my reasons completely changed.
Yep.
So my why was not mine. Like, I actually thank you for shining the light on that, because that actually shows that it happens to all of us.
All of us. And the thing is, the way I ask these questions is designed to get around that. And even when, and as much as I love all the why conversations out there, and Simon Sinek, and like, he really brought that kind of to the forefront.
Sure, right.
I would argue that we don't always know what our truth is. And so these kinds of questions are designed to get at our truth.
Right.
Right. And then in that truth is our personal whys. Correct. And that we can think we're walking around with a why. I know what my why is, but you can't, honestly, you can't start there.
Right.
You have to actually start a step before that. And it's all in the deconstruction of who you are.
Yeah, that's so true. That is so true.
Even as we're talking about, the why I can't or whatever, and that resistance that we have a tendency to operate through, it is, we operate to avoid as opposed to invite. And we are operating in a space that actually, in a series of rules and outlines that aren't even ours. We think they are, we've adopted them, but are they really?
Are they really ours?
Yeah, and it gets trickier because they're fairly honorable. Like, they're not necessarily bad things.
Right.
But they're not quite right.
Because they're not on our love list.
Correct.
So I would encourage all of you take this next week, between this week and next week, and create that love list, just like mine was, for my work life. I have to have the freedom to travel. I don't want to punch a clock and expect to be in a desk or on a Zoom all day long.
Yeah,
Right?
no.
Like I'll get 𝙊𝙬𝙪𝙧. I need to help people and help them find a way out. Like that makes me tick. Flexibility, me time, being innovative and pioneering. So what is your love list? And just know that don't start this with, well, how does that relate to my job? No. This is you actually trying to, for the first time, get in tune with your heart and your soul. And then the next steps are to apply it to your work life.
Yeah.
And that starts to come into fruition as you start to choose you and choose these components and where it's coming out.
And it doesn't require that you give up or abandon whatever it is that you're currently doing. Not necessarily. We're just asking you to put all the cards on the table.
Totally.
Because I do believe that everything we've done is meant to serve us in the thing that whatever we're going to do next.
Right.
It's all useful.
Mm-hmm.
So there's nothing wasted.
Mm-hmm.
But it could be that it needs to be kind of reframed, or turn that kaleidoscope and look at it a little bit differently so that it is more satisfying to you.
Totally.
Right? So it's a very interesting and very subtle difference, but
makes a quantum leap.
Yeah.
In not only your level of happiness in the work that you do in the world, but also in your pocketbook.
Yep.
That's why, I'm the money chick. I am not the work life expert. That's your lane. And you and I, yet our own personal stories are the fact that we have created our businesses and our lives based on our heart and our soul.
Yeah.
We followed our intuition the whole way. And many people in our lives were sitting there going, you're nuts. Like, I can't tell you how many times people feel like they're like, well, but you're Julie and blah, 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 blah. No. I have taught hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people to find a work life that is amazing. Like I had this one client who really was pressed in their work life to choose, and it was hard. He had the opportunity to go to Manhattan and take a salary that was a couple $1,000,000 a year, or go just under $1 million. And to most people, they're like, God, I wish that was my choice, but I can give the same example to people of 100,000 versus 50,000.
Yeah.
But his heart and his soul was out west, because he always wanted to live out in nature and on a ranch. And like the first day he met me, like that was on his love list. Like it was on his love list. And when he was challenged with, do I take less income here, but there's the growth to become exactly what I'd be offered in New York City? Mm-hmm. And I just said to him, I go, when are you going to choose your heart over your head? And here's the funny thing about it. The money always shows up.
Yeah.
He was given, after 1 month of being there, $100,000 worth of stock. 2 months after being there, another $100,000 worth of stock. Like, so the money is showing up the longer he's there. And I love the fact that he posted a picture on Facebook showing a wild herd of animals in his backyard. Like, I was like going, God, he's arrived, and he's so happy, and his kids are so happy, and his wife, like everybody's super happy. But you have to choose your heart over everything else, because everything that is aligned with your heart will be fully supported. If you are choosing things that are not aligned with your heart, you create suffering cycles.
Yeah.
And then things fall away. You don't get bonuses. You don't get raises. You got that asshole boss. Blah, 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 blah. Like those things happen when you don't choose your heart and apply that into the work that you do in the world.
Yeah. And it's really interesting, because we make sometimes making the money the goal, and it is not a surrogate for your happiness. It really isn't. And sometimes we keep we want to make more and more money because we're trying to fill a hole.
Yeah.
Like the thought becomes like, oh, I need to make more money. And what happens is sometimes when you start doing the things, like you start mending your life to be more in alignment with what's true for you, i.e. the kinds of adding more in of the things on your love list,
Right.
you need less money.
Well, yeah. So people have realized that in coronavirus, right? Like we've realized that, God, I was distracting myself eating out at all those restaurants and buying alcohol and drinking and smoking and whatever else your vice was. Like people are realizing going, oh, like I have clients that are saving thousands and $1,000 per month.
Yep.
And they're redesigning their lives going, you know what, we were never able to get to move to this place that we wanted to move to because we were spending so much right now. We weren't realizing that we were choosing that over choosing a life that we love. And
Right.
so it's becoming what I'm watching happen is that people are starting to unpack really what they do love and how they were distracting themselves from that over the last
Yeah.
5-10 years.
Yep. And I would
Including
argue,
myself.
yeah, and me too. And I would argue that this is still the window. Like people
Yes.
still have time to ride and catch the wave. You know, life is going to be different forever. Like we're not going back to the way things used to be. And quite frankly, I doubt that anybody's going to be 100%, any business, like especially corporates, I doubt that any of them will ever be 100% in office.
No, that's
It's
changed.
not going to happen. I think the level of travel that people conduct is going to go way down or have to conduct. You know, I think there are a lot of things that are changing, and it's not too late. It's not too late to like use this window as things slow down. This is like a slowdown season, right? Like everybody's slowing down right now. Use it. Use this time to like reevaluate.
Beautiful.
And Julie and I are here for you. Send us your notes in advance.
Yes, please send us your questions. We want to make this as live and as interactive as possible because we're here for you. And we want this to be something that is of value and let us help you on your journey to get you to the next right step. So Karen, if people wanted to reach you, how do they reach you, my friend?
Yeah, they can visit beyondblindspots.com. That's the website, spots with an S at the end. Or they can visit me on Instagram or Facebook at Beyond Blind Spots. Come and hang out.
And whether it's your work life, your family life, your relationships, your health, your wealth, this is why I've started this Awakening series. So go to juliemurphy.com and sign up for my newsletter, and you'll get all the notifications as to when we're doing everything to help you get to a life that you desire and you love and you deserve. Thanks for joining us again, you guys, this week, and we'll see you next week. Bye.